Hello, hello, I'm Kads, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. So today's topic is going to be the current ongoing summon pool in the game, the Specialist Summon Pool, which is really a fancy term for a bunch of champions that have the debuff decreased accuracy. It has been a while since I've covered one of these, so I want to get back in the habit of doing that for you guys. And I also wanted to share what my typical approach to this as a free-to-play player is, at least going forward. So taking a look at this particular summon pool, once again, it is featuring champions who have decreased accuracy in their kits. So there are 6 legendaries and an assortment of epics, and including void epics. And one thing to note, I guess more specifically for the last one, there was a void legendary in the summon pool for the first time ever, meaning that there is the precedent or capability that there might be void legendaries in the future. And obviously here we can also see that there are some void epics. So maybe in the future there's going to be a lot more void champions or void legendaries in these pools. We'll just have to wait and see, but there is at least a precedent for that. I think it was Sir Nick in the last one. So just keep an eye out for that, and it might just happen. So when it comes to this pool, I would say a lot of the legendaries are pretty decent overall. I think Gwendolyn is pretty cool for Hydra specifically, but she also has like leech and decreased speed, extra turns in her kit, and really a really fun kit that works really well in Hydra. Morrigan is a previous fusion champion, who's probably going to be very strong for the Curse City, or specifically Amias, the big boss. But she's also great in Arena just in general. Lady Kimmy, one of my favorite champions, one of my most wanted champions way back before I pulled her. Lots of turn meter manipulation on both, or in both directions, and also obviously providing decreased accuracy, increased speed, decreased speed, ton of stuff, lots of turn meter control. Very, very fast champion as well. Herndog, one of my favorite champions in the game for nuking, AoE nuking, single target nuking. He kind of does both. And he is very, very, very strong for Dark Fae because he can reset his abilities, or he reset the A3 on the A1, get extra turns, and then he can just cycle through his own abilities very, very quickly, on top of having some turn meter control, which is great for the Dark Fae. Now, the other two, I'm not super familiar with Feral, but I've heard great things. I think he has increased resistance and a perfect veil. He has decreased accuracy block buffs, so he can probably be good. Decreased speed on the A1. He can probably be good just to kind of protect your teams and whatnot and stuff. But yeah, he increases a bunch of stats just by having buffs on your team. So pretty strong champion. And then Knock the Paralyzer. I think he's a really solid poisoner if he's just like the only one you happen to have. If you want to run some solo strats in a dragon, for example, he's one of the champions you could do that. So epics are a little less impressive. I think everyone's a huge fan of Geomancer. I happen to not be. I think Padma's pretty solid for the Eternal Dragon fight. I don't use her on my team anymore, but I did use her for a while. Sylar's pretty good, turn meter control. Who else is noteworthy? Duck the Pierced, good for faction wars, but also good if you just need a debuffer and you're in the earlier the mid game. Anax, one of my favorite aesthetic looking champions. He's just one of the hardest hitting champions in the entire game, including legendaries, for like a block damage comp. So if you're running a Myth Air comp and you can get away with a Spirit Affinity champion as your DPS, Anax is definitely the way to go, or at least the budget way to go. He's on par with legendaries, believe it or not. And then Gorlos Helma, honorable mention because decreased defense, AoE for faction wars, demon spawn. So good to have him on your account if you can manage it. So the other things to note here are, of course, the summoning rates. So we have a 7.5% chance of getting legendary, 92.5% chance of getting epic. So this is effectively a sacred shard, but slightly better. It's about 25% better, improved relative to the rates. And of course, it will cost you 40 prisms to summon the shard. And although technically you can only get one free summon by participating in the events and tournaments that feature prism crystals, I do think it's pretty nice that they offered the amount that they offered. Overall, I think the total is a grand total of 60. So that's pretty generous overall. And they're relatively accessible, because sometimes it's like at the end of a Dungeon Divers or an artifact enhancement or something that you don't really want to participate in all the time, specifically just to have a chance to get a legendary or an epic or something, or even a rare sometimes based on the summon pools. But something like this, the fusion warm-up event, where you probably want to do this anyways, you just level up an artifact, take it to 12, and you're basically good to go. One of those per day, and you'll walk away with, you know, the 10 prism crystals, ancient shards, some energy, and as well as 20 gems. So pretty decent rewards for minimal effort and silver cost. But that's only 10 out of the 60. We also have 20 from the spider tournament that is going on for the next day and 5 hours, at least at the time of this recording. So if you get all the way out to 2100 in the spider tournament, and there's not really much else to be doing right now unless you're just saving energy for the fusion. So if you get all the way out there, you can pick up another 20, so a grand total of 30 thus far. And then there's also a big 30 node here in the Soul Chase tournament, which is on a fairly reasonable level if you've been stockpiling your soul stones like I have been. It's been 6 weeks. We'll talk about this in tomorrow's video where we're going to pull all the soul stones that I have, but I typically do it on Wednesday local time here. That's because of Hydra ending or resetting on that day. So I want to get all of my mortals for the week from Hydra before I do my sessions. But nonetheless, this node here is 30 prism crystals, so bringing our grand total to 60. So if you have a relatively minor stockpile of soul stones on top of participating in the spider tournament, and then obviously participating in the fusion warm-up event, you can then earn yourself a free summon with 60 prism crystals. So as you might have pieced together, for myself, I'm going to accumulate all of the prism crystals I'm going to get tomorrow. So we'll be opening whatever I get from there, as well as my soul stones in tomorrow's video. But I do want to highlight what my approach has been for these in recent days. So the first thing to note is that you can see here I do have 30 crystals already, and what I've been doing is passively kind of going for some of them, but not enough to get a summon if it's a pool that I don't really care about. In this case, I don't really have a choice because I am going to do the fusion warm-up event, so I am going to be given at least, or get to at least 40, meaning I will be forced to summon, unfortunately, even though I don't really need any of these champions here. I mean, I would take dupes of some of the legendaries that I do have, specifically the fusion ones and Lady Kimmy, for duplicates, faction guardians, that would be helpful, but it's not like a Valkyrie or someone on the top of my list that I'm really looking for. And honestly, I'm not exactly certain if I do want to claim the fragments from the spider tournament. I know I'm going to do the fusion warm-up one, and I know I'm going to do the soul chase because I want to get a legendary tome, which is above the fragments there, which is already 40, meaning that guarantees that I will have one summon. But if I stopped there, I would actually be back at 30, which I could save for the next one and potentially get 2 pulls on a summon pool that I actually care about. Or I can just continue on with the spider tournament that I'm participating in and just get 2 summons now and be back at 10 fragments towards the next one. So that's a TBD on my exact strategy. We'll probably find out tomorrow, depending on how far I decide to get in the spider tournament, at least with free energy. But I'll be saving some of the excess energy after tomorrow's reset for the fusion, so we'll kind of see how it goes with that. But the point I'm trying to make here is that you can definitely try and manipulate this a little bit, and so you can make sure that you have some amount of excess fragments that are less than the summoning amount, because again, you're forced to summon it if you do get to the amount. But if you want to participate in some of the events, or none of, or like part of the events, not all of them, don't spend a bunch of money necessarily to get a bunch of fragments or crystals or whatever. You can kind of set yourself up for success potentially for some summon pool in the future where you do care about it, where if you're sitting just under like I am right now, like I said, I can get 2 pulls in this summon pool by participating in the events, and they are happening to be more free-to-play friendly in this instance. So that would be good if I cared a little bit more about the champions in this particular pool. So that's the strategy that I've been employing as of late, and hopefully that can help you guys approach these more strategically in the future. All right, so that's going to do it for today's video talking about the specialist summon pool. I do think the champions in it are fairly decent, particularly the legendaries. Some epics are good as well. I like that it's a kind of a super sacred shard. I do like the free-to-play accessibility of the fragments in this instance, because a lot of them have been fairly pay to win. So this one is probably the most free-to-play accessible one, where it's just participating in really relatively easy or accessible events. So this one is definitely a thumbs up from me. Let me know if you're able to get 1 or 2 summons, and if you got anything good from them in the comment section down below. As usual, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you did enjoy the video, then be sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.